We're constantly moving through time, right? And it's a thought that pops up as we get older. Do we automatically get wiser? Or is it, possible that our ability to really grasp the big ideas actually starts to, well, maybe even lessen?
That's a really interesting question, and it leads us straight into today's deep dive, Chapter 3 of Marcus Aurelius' Meditations.
Exactly. We're going to try and pull out the absolute core lessons from just this chapter, simplify the language a bit for today, make it feel more like a conversation.
Yeah, not getting lost in every single line, but hitting the main points he makes right here in Chapter 3.
So our mission, if you like, is to see how this ancient wisdom holds up for living well now. And Chapter 3 basically gives us a kind of roadmap. Focus on the present, use your reason, and accept what you can't control. Pretty straightforward, right? Ready to jump in.
Let's do it. So the very first thing Aurelius hits on in this chapter, it really lands with a sense of urgency. Now or never, almost. He talks about how life is constantly being spent, and the bit left keeps shrinking.
That constant ticking clock feeling. But he adds this fascinating layer, doesn't he? It's not just that we're getting closer to the end.
No, exactly. He raises this idea that even if you live a really long life, your mental sharpness, your ability to understand the really deep stuff, philosophy, human nature, all that, it might actually fade even before your body gives out.
Huh. That's quite a thought.
It is. He contrasts the basic functions that stick around, like breathing, eating, sensing things, with the higher level stuff, self-awareness, judgment, critical thinking. And he suggests those more sophisticated abilities could decline earlier.
Wow. So it reframes aging. It's not just about the physical side, but maybe our core ability to understand what matters could slip away too, which, adds this double urgency.
Precisely. Not just the clock ticking towards death, but maybe the light of understanding dimming sooner than we think.
And that makes sense, with how we often feel today, wanting to learn things quickly, get to the heart of the matter. Maybe it's not just about being busy.
It could be tapping into that sense that the window for really deep comprehension might be, more limited than we assume.
Okay, so we've got this pressure cooker situation.
Right.
Time's running out. Maybe our best thinking years have a limit too. What's Aurelius's first piece of advice then?
Well, he really hammers home finding your contentment within, being self-sufficient, not needing external props or other people to give you your sense of calm.
Right. He uses that great phrase, standing upright, not being straightened. What's the essence of that?
It's really about self-reliance versus dependency. Standing upright, that's your own inner strength, your own stability. Being straightened, that implies you're leaning on something or someone else. He's pushing for that inner fortitude.
Yeah, that ability to be okay on your own. It definitely makes you pause and think, doesn't it? Where are we maybe too reliant on, likes on social media or praise at work or needing someone else to make us feel okay?
Exactly. It's a challenge to see where you're genuinely standing tall on your own versus being propped up.
And that seems to lead directly into his next point about values, what really matters.
Yes. He asks this fundamental question. Is there actually anything better than, say, justice, truth, self-control, courage, or an independent mind that follows reason and accepts the way things are?
The big virtues. And he warns us about getting distracted by things that look good on the surface but aren't as valuable.
Precisely. Things like, popularity, power, wealth, even pleasure. He admits they might feel good for a moment.
Yeah.
They might even seem to align with our nature briefly.
But they can take over.
They can dominate you and pull you off course from what's actually good for your soul, you could say, your rational self.
Like chasing fool's gold instead of the real thing.
Yeah, exactly. And Aurelius says, choose the best, meaning what aligns with your rational self simply, freely, and just stick with it. Persist. He even touches on this idea, the best is what's convenient. He clarifies that, saying if something is genuinely convenient for your rational self, fine, pursue it. But don't let your basic urges, your animal instincts for pleasure or status, kind of hijack that decision with pride.
So it's about aligning with our higher reason, not just satisfying base cravings. Okay, what's next in this guide?
He digs into what true utility is, what really benefits us, and he's crystal clear. Nothing truly useful should ever make you betray your integrity.
Wow.
Yeah, it shouldn't make you renounce your sense of shame or hate people or be suspicious or curse or deceive others or even just crave things that need secrecy or external validation.
That's a really high bar. It forces you to reevaluate a lot of common goals, doesn't it? If getting there means compromising your core values, is it actually useful?
That's his point, exactly. He contrasts this with the person who prioritizes their own reason, their inner divinity, as he calls it. This person, he says, avoids drama, avoids constant complaining. They don't need solitude all the time, but they don't need crowds either.
They have an inner equilibrium. Their well-being isn't just tossed around by circumstances.
Right. And crucially, this person can live without constantly chasing things or running away from things, how much life they have left. It doesn't fundamentally change how they operate. They're ready to depart when the time comes with the same calm resolve they'd bring to any honorable task.
That sounds like a really profound kind of peace, not dependent on anything external, not even length of life.
And building right on that, he stresses how vital it is to venerate our intellect, our power of reason. It's the core of who we are, in his view.
So not just having intelligence, but actively valuing it, protecting it.
Yes. The goal is to make sure our inner compass, our guiding reason, never holds opinions that clash with nature or rationality. And when we achieve that, well, it frees us from impulsiveness, helps us connect better with others, and aligns us with the divine or the universe.
Okay, so aligning thought with reason brings stability and virtue. Makes sense.
And from there, it's a natural step to another huge Stoic idea, focusing really intently on the present moment.
Ah, yes, the now, letting go of all the noise and just being right here.
Exactly. He reminds us, we only ever live in the present, this tiny, fleeting instant. The past, it's done. The future, it's uncertain, maybe non-existent for us. Wasting energy there pulls us from the only time we actually have.
And he really puts our lives into perspective, too, doesn't he? How short they are, the small patch of earth we inhabit. It's kind of humbling.
It really is. He even dismisses long-lasting fame after death. He points out it relies on this chain of people who will also soon die, and they barely know themselves, let alone someone who lived ages ago.
Huh. So chasing posthumous fame is, a bit pointless in the grand scheme. What's his alternative focus, then?
He lays out a very practical path to a good life. Do the task in front of you right now with correct reason, with diligence, firmness, kindness, and don't get bogged down by secondary issues.
Just focused, purposeful, ethical action in the moment.
And safeguard the purity of your inner self, he says, as if you were about to return it. It implies this constant mindfulness of our core values.
And he adds that condition. Don't anticipate or avoid things. Just be content with your present action as long as it aligns with nature and what he calls heroic truthfulness in word and deed.
That's it. And the really empowering part, he says no one can actually stop you from achieving this kind of happiness.
Yeah.
It's within your control.
That's a strong message. Personal power. Now, he also mentions interconnectedness.
Yes, he uses this great analogy like a doctor always has their surgical tools ready.
Uh-huh.
We should always keep our fundamental principles for understanding divine and human things close at hand, ready to use.
So have those core philosophies internalized and accessible.
Right, and remember the intrinsic link between everything. Even tiny things are connected. He argues you can't succeed in any human action without relating it to the divine or the natural order, and vice versa. It's all one system.
A reminder not to see things in isolation, but as part of a bigger picture.
And then finally, Chapter 3 builds towards his description of the excellent human being.
Okay, what defines this person?
Well, he separates body, sensations, soul, instincts, impulses, and intelligence, principles, reason. He notes that just having sensations or being driven by impulses, animals have that, even pretty base people, as he might see them.
Right.
And even using intelligence for just practical tasks, like getting things done, that can be done by people with no real moral compass.
So what's the special ingredient for excellence?
The key characteristic for Aurelius is loving and embracing whatever happens to you, your fate, seeing it as interwoven with the fabric of reality.
Acceptance, even embracing difficulty.
And crucially, not letting your inner divinity, your reason, get confused or disturbed by this flood of external images or internal desires. Keeping it clear.
Okay.
The excellent person, he says, remains favorable to that inner guide. Disciplined, truthful, just. They aren't swayed if others don't trust them. They live simply, modestly, with good spirit, and they just keep following their path towards life's end. Pure, tranquil, free, and totally in sync with their destiny.
Wow. That's a really powerful picture. Inner peace, moral strength, acceptance. Okay, so just to quickly wrap up our look at Chapter 3. We've seen the urgency of now, the need for inner resilience, prioritizing reason over external validation.
Defining true usefulness by integrity, honoring our intellect, focusing intensely on the present.
living rationally moment by moment, understanding interconnectedness, and striving for that ideal of the excellent human being. It's a lot packed into one chapter.
It really is. And what's amazing, isn't it, is how these questions he's wrestling with, finding meaning in mortality, dealing with distractions, living ethically, there still are questions thousands of years later. Chapter 3 is just this incredibly potent shot of his wisdom.
Absolutely. So, as you go about your day after listening, here's a little something to chew on. Think about one area, just one, where maybe you're putting a bit too much energy into those fleeting external things, approval, possessions, avoiding discomfort, instead of really cultivating that inner strength, that rational core. What might shift for you if you tweak that focus, even just a little? Definitely something worth considering. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us today.